What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So I kind of already did a double eye swipe on this specific phone, the iPhone 6s, but I figured I might as well do a little bit of an updated one in middle of 2019. Now this is not going to go like super in depth or anything. I mean, the earlier one this year kind of did that. So I'm going to kind of glance over the kind of basic things that we already kind of know, but I'm really going to hit on one thing, which is iOS 13 and pretty much how it's been running on the iPhone 6s so far. Again, these are beta, so I wouldn't really hit on it too much, but let's go ahead and see. I mean, prices for these things have kind of dropped a little bit, and a lot of things have changed even since beginning of this year. So to kind of start off, obviously the iPhone 6s came out in 2015 and it still feels pretty premium to me. I mean, the body, it doesn't feel super cheap. Of course, there's no wireless charging, no glass back, but I think it's a pretty premium feeling device, especially for the price tag that you're getting it at, for less than $200 for the base model. So that's usually the main price tag I've seen for these things selling for. So kind of keep that in mind as I'm going through this whole entire review. On the front, we do have a 4.7-inch IPS panel. It's not even a 1080p panel, it's like 750p. And honestly, that's one of the biggest disadvantages for the iPhone 6s. Again, it's not like the end of the world or anything, but it is kind of suck that it isn't like super sharp. You can definitely see it's a quite pixelated, but it's not the end of the world or anything. You do have a fingerprint sensor on the front as well as a bunch of bezel, but the fingerprint sensor, in my opinion, is very, very good. It's Touch ID too, and I still kind of prefer a fingerprint sensor over Face ID, but to each their own, you know what I mean? On the front, we have a 8 megapixel front facing camera, and on the back, we have a 12 megapixel back facing camera. And I'll definitely tell you, these cameras are still solid. They can shoot 4K videos. You have the live photos option as well. And you know, you might not have portrait mode or any like studio lighting or anything, but for the sheer quality that you're getting from this camera, it's not bad at all, especially when you consider that price tag. And because you do have iOS 13, you do have all that capability of all those new little settings within the Photos app. You also have like Snapseed and whatever apps are in the App Store that you can mess with. So even though you don't have like the 2 or 3 additional settings that the iPhone XS Max has or whatever phones are coming out in the future, you still have a lot of options to edit your photos using apps within the App Store. So that's a pretty important thing. So I'll definitely tell you, the camera is not one of those things that is like a bad thing about this phone. It's still, in my opinion, a pro for this phone 100%. And like I said earlier on in this video, the main thing I wanted to hit on was the software. So as you guys know, this thing just got iOS 13, and I did my initial review a week ago when it came out, and I've done a comparison since then between this and iOS 12, and I just kind of want to talk about some of just my experience using it, some of the problems and everything. But the main thing I want to say is that this thing is not resource heavy. iOS 13 is not an update which takes up a lot of memory on your phone and makes your phone bogged down because it has a lot of things in the background. In my opinion, I think iOS 13 is actually better for phones that are older. So I think in the future, when the official version comes out, iOS 13 will end up being a better and more solid update in terms of fluidity and speed rather than iOS 12, and for a couple reasons. So as we know, app updates are going to be a lot smaller in the future, as well as app sizes, and that's going to really help older iPhones that are only capped out at 128 gigs for the maximum model. So that is a lot of memory, don't get me wrong, but we have phones that are like 512 gigs, so having apps that are much smaller will help kind of get more out of your phone in terms of the storage within it. Another thing, we've seen some speed improvements. Apparently apps are going to be able to open up twice as fast and things like that, so that's really going to help out the older iPhones, including the 6s. Another cool thing is that a lot of the background processes are going to be able to be cut out. Apple's not going to allow these apps, these third-party apps, suck up a lot of memory in the background and use your data and all that crazy stuff. So in that's going to speed up the iPhone as well a little bit. But I will tell you, the betas that I've been running at so far have been kind of buggy, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is not the official version. That's going to be a lot more stable. But even at the iOS 13 level that we're at now, running on the iPhone 6s, it is not like horrible. It's not unusable at all. So if this is the beta 1, I'm actually super excited to see what the official version will bring. Of course, it's going to have bugs and all those crazy things, but I think iOS 13 on the iPhone 6s will be faster. I think it'll be a very, very solid update, and we're only on beta 1. So, and the coolest thing is that the 6s got pretty much all of the features of iOS 13. Remember with the iPhone 6 and 5s, those kind of got cut out on some features of iOS 12. Apple said it couldn't support it, this or that, but because the 6s is still a pretty powerful phone, it pretty much got all of the features that the iPhone XS Max got and the iPhone XS and XR got. So that's a really, really cool thing right there, and I love how Apple did that for the 6s and the 7 series and 8 series and all those different iPhones that don't have Face ID, don't have gesture control, are still based on home buttons. And kind of talking one step further and talking about the longevity of the iPhone 6s, because this phone got iOS iOS 13. As I suggested before I knew was going to get it, I don't think iOS 13 is going to be the last major version of iOS that the 6S gets. So if we kind of look at Apple's past, lots of the S series devices ended up getting an extra year of support. So the iPhone 4S got an extra year of support, the iPhone 5S got an extra year of support with the iOS 12 update, and I'm pretty sure the 6S will end up getting an extra year of support, so it'll end up going up to iOS 14. So that is a pretty major thing right there. And we were thinking that iOS 13 was going to be a pretty major UI redesign, whatever. It was in a way, but it also wasn't. Like, we didn't get like a new home design or anything. So with iOS 14, I think it's going to be more of the same. I still don't think we're going to get it. So I do think the 6S will probably end up being supported with iOS 14. So that is a pretty crazy new thing. And I'm going to say that every once in a while moving on forward. It's not verified or anything. That's just kind of a thought that I have. Looking at what we know now with iOS 13, a major thing I also want to hit on is battery life on iOS 13 has been a little rocky. It's not the best, especially for the 6S because, with the older iPhones, batteries degraded, and my battery on my 6S is like on like 80%, so it's being pretty close for me to repair it, but that's because we're on a beta. Once we get to an official version, it's going to be a lot better. So stay on iOS 12 if you own a 6S or even any iPhone. Stay on iOS 12. Do not go to a beta, go to the official version when that comes out. But ultimately, I think the iPhone 6S is worth more now than even earlier this year because we already knew it was getting iOS 13, but now I'm pretty sure it's going to get iOS 14, so you will get an additional year on top of that. Again, that's all rumors, but based off what I know, it's at least lasting until 2020 in May, whenever, or June, when the last update comes. So ultimately, I'm super happy with the iPhone 6S so far. I definitely do think in the middle of 2019, it's still worth it. It's still holding up, and I guess in the future, we'll see whether it's still going to get iOS 14 or not. But once the actual version of iOS 13 comes out in September, I'll go ahead and do a late 2019 review as well to kind of discuss things going on. Plus, we'll see the new iPhones, and these iPhones, the older ones, will go down in value as well. So we'll go ahead and reevaluate these iPhones when that time comes around. But if you want to pick up an iPhone 6S, I'll leave the first link down in the description. I'll find the cheapest one I can on Amazon. I'll link it straight there. Every single sale that goes through that link, a little bit of that revenue comes back to the channel, and we can do more videos like this, more giveaways, more comparisons, all that good stuff. So it'll mean so much if you guys could check that out. But that is pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I would really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.